from YouTube, from a video called The Secret of Success or something like that. Let me just find it here. So it takes a couple of seconds to find the right video. Secret Door to Success. There we are. And I'm almost at the right place. So there's about 20 minutes of this. I'm just going to play it and record it because...
And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. Catch up with your good. This is a new way of saying, before they call, I will answer. Your good precedes you. It gets there before you do. But how to catch up with your good? For you must have ears that hear and eyes that see, or it will escape you. Some people never catch up with their good in life. They will say, my life has always been one of hardship. No good luck ever comes to me. They are the people who have been asleep to their opportunities, or through laziness haven't caught up with their good. A woman told a group of friends that she had not eaten for 3 days. They dashed about asking people to give her work, but she refused it. She explained that she never got up until 12 o'clock. She liked to lie in bed and read magazines. She just wanted people to support her while she read Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. We must be careful not to slip into lazy states of mind. Take the affirmation, I am wide awake to my good. I never miss a trick. Most people are only half awake to their good. A student said to me, if I don't follow my hunches, I always get into a jam. I will tell the story of a woman, one of my students, who followed her intuitive leads, which brought amazing results. She had been asked to visit friends in a nearby town. She had very little money. When she arrived at her destination, she found the house locked up. They had gone away. She was filled with despair, then commenced to pray. She said, Infinite Intelligence, give me a definite lead. Let me know just what to do. The name of a certain hotel flashed into her consciousness. It persisted. The name seemed to stand out in big letters. She had just enough money to get back to New York and the hotel. As she was about to enter, an old friend suddenly appeared, who greeted her warmly and whom she hadn't seen in years. She explained that she was living at the hotel, but was going away for several months, and added, why don't you live in my suite while I'm away? It won't cost you a cent. My friend accepted gratefully and looked with amazement on the working of spiritual law. She had caught up with her good by following intuition. All going forward comes from desire. Science today is going back to Lamarck and his wishing theory. He claimed...
Okay, so what Florence Scovel is talking about is the courage to follow intuitive knowing. Because it's a leap, really. You are supported, but it doesn't necessarily feel like you're supported. It doesn't make sense logically or rationally at the time. And making that commitment is a tricky thing. It does take courage. So now she's talking about somebody called Lamarck, who I don't know very much anything at all about, but I'm going to look him up in a second or two.
Claims that birds do not fly because they have wings, but they have wings because they wanted to fly, the result of the push of the emotional wish. Think of the irresistible power of thought with clear vision. Many people are in a fog most of the time, make wrong decisions, and going the wrong way. During the Christmas rush, my maid said to a saleswoman at one of the big shops, I suppose this is your busiest day. She replied, oh no, the day after Christmas is our busiest day, when people bring most of the things back. Hundreds of people choosing the wrong gifts because they were not listening to their intuitive leads. No matter what you are doing, ask for guidance. It saves time and energy and often a lifetime of misery. All suffering comes from the violation of intuition. Unless intuition builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Get the habit of hunching, then you will always be on the magic path. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Working with spiritual law, we are bringing to pass that which already is. In the universal mind, it is there as an idea, but is crystallized on the external by a sincere desire. The idea of a bird was a perfect picture in divine mind. The fish caught the idea and wished themselves into birds. Are your desires bringing you wings? We should all be bringing some seemingly impossible things to pass. One of my affirmations is, the unexpected happens, my seemingly impossible good now comes to pass. Do not magnify obstacles, magnify the Lord. That means magnify God's power. The average person will dwell on all the obstacles and hindrances which are there to prevent his good coming to pass. You combine with what you notice. So if you give obstacles and hindrances your undivided attention, they grow worse and worse. Give God your undivided attention. Keep saying silently in the face of obstacles, God's ways are ingenious, His methods are sure. God's power is invincible, though invisible. Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. In demonstrating our good, we must look away from adverse appearances. Judge not by appearances. Get some statement which will give you a feeling of assurance. The long arm of God reaches out over people and conditions, controlling the situation and protecting my interests. I was asked to speak the word for a man who was to have a business interview with a seemingly unscrupulous person. I used a statement, and rightness and justice came out of the situation at just the exact time I was speaking. We have all heard the quotation from Proverbs, "Hope deferred maketh the heart grow sick, but when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life." In desiring sincerely without anxiety, we are catching up with the thing desired, and the desire becomes crystallized on the external. I will give to you the righteous desire of your heart. Selfish desires, desires which harm others, always return to harm the sender. The righteous desire might be called an echo from the infinite. It is already a perfect idea in divine mind. All inventors catch up with the ideas of the articles they invent. I say in my book, The Game of Life, the telephone was seeking Bell. Often two people discover the same inventions at the same time. They have tuned in with the same idea. The most important thing in life is to bring the divine plan to pass. Just as the picture of the oak is in the acorn, the divine design of your life is in your superconscious mind, and you must work out the perfect pattern in your affairs. You will often lead a magic life, for in the divine design all conditions are permanently perfect. People defy the divine design when they are asleep to their good. Perhaps the woman who liked to lie in bed most of the day and read magazines should be writing for magazines, but her habits of laziness dulled all desire to go forward. The fishes who desired wings were alert and alive. They did not spend their days on the bed of the ocean reading Vogue in Harper's Bazaar. Awake, thou that sleepeth, and catch up with your good. Call on me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. I now catch up with my good, for before I called, I was answered. Chapter 13. Rivers in the Desert. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth, shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness, and rivers in the desert. Isaiah 43:19. In this 43rd chapters of Isaiah are many wonderful statements, showing the irresistible power of supreme intelligence coming to man's rescue in times of trouble. No matter how impossible the situation seems, infinite intelligence knows the way out. Working with God power, man becomes unconditioned and absolute. Let us get a realization of this hidden power that we can call upon it at any moment. Make your contact with infinite intelligence, the God within, and all appearance of evil evaporates, for it comes from man's vain imaginings. In my question and answer class, I would be asked, How do you make a conscious contact with the invincible power? In reply, by your word. By your word you are justified. The centurion said to Jesus Christ, Speak the word, Master, and my servant shall be healed. Whosoever calleth on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. Notice the word call. You are calling on the Lord or law when you make an affirmation of truth. As I always say, take a statement which clicks. That means gives you a feeling of security. People are enslaved by ideas of lack of love, lack of money, lack of companionship, lack of health, and so on. They are enslaved by the ideas of interference and incompletion. They are asleep in the Adamic world. They are asleep in the Adamic dream. Adam, generic man, ate of Maya, the tree of illusion, and saw two powers, good and evil. The Christ mission was to wake people up to the truth of one power, God. Awake thou that sleepeth. If you lack any good thing, you are still asleep to your good. How do you awake from the Adamic dreams of opposites after having slept soundly in the race thought for hundreds of years? Jesus Christ said, When two of you agree, it shall be done. It is the law of agreement. It is almost impossible to see clearly your good for yourself. That is where the healer, practitioner, or friend is necessary. Most successful men say they have succeeded because their wives believed in them. I will quote from a current newspaper giving Walter P. Chrysler's tribute to his wife. Nothing, he once said, has given me more satisfaction in life than the way my wife had faith in me from the very first through all those years. Chrysler wrote of her, It seemed to me I could not make anyone understand what I was ambitious except Ella. I could tell her and she would nod. It seems to me I even dared to tell her that I intended some day to be a master mechanic. She always backed his ambitions. Talk about your affairs as little as possible, and then only to the ones who will give you encouragement and inspiration. The world is full of wet blankets, people who will tell you it can't be done, that you are aiming too high. As people sit in truth meetings and services, often a word or an idea will open a way in the wilderness. Of course, the Bible is speaking of states of consciousness. You were in a wilderness or desert when you were out of harmony, when you were angry, resentful, fearful, or undecided. Indecision is the cause of much ill health, being unable to make up your mind. One day when I was on the bus, a woman stopped in and asked the conductor its destination. He told her, but she was undecided. She got halfway on and then got off, then on again. The conductor turned to her and said, Lady, make up your mind. So it is with so many people. Ladies, make up your minds. The intuitive person is never undecided. He has given his leads and hunches and goes boldly ahead, knowing he is on the magic path. In truth, we always ask for definite leads, just what to do. You will always receive one if you ask for it. Sometimes it comes as intuition, sometimes from the external. One of my students, named Ada, was walking down the street, undecided whether to go to a certain place or not. She asked for a lead. Two women were walking in front of her. One turned to the other and said, Why don't you go, Ada? The woman's name just happened to be Ada. My friend took it as a definite lead and went on to her destination, and the outcome was very successful. We really lead magic lives, guided and provided for at every step, if we have ears to hear and eyes that see. Of course, we have left the plane of the intellect and are drawing from the superconscious, the God within, which says, This is the way, walk ye in it. Whatever you should know will be revealed to you. Whatever you lack will be provided. Thus saith the Lord, which maketh a way in the sea and a path in the mighty waters. Remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. People who live in the past have severed their contact with the wonderful now. God knows only the now. Now is the appointed time. Today is the day. Many people lead lives of limitation, hoarding, and saving, afraid to use what they have, which brings more lack and more limitation. I give the example of a woman who lived in a small country town. She could scarcely see to get about and had very little money. A kind friend took her to an oculist and presented her with glasses, which enabled her to see perfectly. Some time later she met her on the streets without the glasses. She explained, "Where are your glasses?" The woman replied, "Well, you don't expect me to hack 'em out by using them every day, do you? I only wear them on Sundays. You must live in the now and be wide awake to your opportunities. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." This message is meant for the individual. Think of your problem and know that infinite intelligence knows the way of fulfillment. I say the way, for before you called, you were answered. The supply already precedes the demand. God is the giver and the gift, and now creates His own amazing channels. When you have asked for the divine plan of your life to manifest, you are protected from getting the things that are not in the divine plan. You may think that all your happiness depends upon obtaining one particular thing in life. Later on, you praise the Lord that you didn't get it.
Right. She said something there that I think is very, very important. God is the giver and the gift. So there's no separation between the source and the thing. The thing is the source. So the thought of the thing is the thing. That's what she's saying. It's Plato to some degree. It's like the archetype of the thing is the thing. The form, the Platonic form of the thing is the thing.
Sometimes you are tempted to follow the reasoning mind and argue with your intuitive leads. Suddenly the hand of destiny pushes you into the right place, and under grace you find yourself back on the magic path again. You are now wide awake to your good, and have the ears that hear your intuitive leads, and the eyes which see the road of fulfillment. The genius within me is released. I now fulfill my destiny. Chapter 14. The Inner Meaning of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I have been asked to give a metaphysical interpretation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, one of Grimm's fairy tales. It is amazing how this picture, a fairy tale, swept sophisticated New York and the whole country due to Walt Disney's genius. This fairy tale was supposed to be for children, but men and women have packed the theater. It is because fairy tales come down from old legends of Persia, India, and Egypt, which are founded on truth. Snow White, the little princess, has a cruel stepmother who is jealous of her. This cruel stepmother idea appears also in Cinderella. Nearly everyone has a cruel stepmother. The cruel stepmother is a negative thought form you have built up in the subconscious. Snow White's cruel stepmother is jealous of her and always keeps her in rags and in the background. All cruel thought forms do this. The cruel stepmother consults her magic mirror every day, saying, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" One day the mirror replies, "Thou, queen, mayest fair and beauteous be. But Snow White is lovelier far than thee." This enrages the queen, so she decides to send Snow White to the forest to be killed by one of her servants. However, the servant's heart melts when Snow White begs for her life, so he leaves her in the woods. The woods are filled with terrifying animals and many pitfalls and dangers. She falls in terror to the ground, and while there a most unusual spectacle presents itself. Scores of the most delightful little animals and birds creep up and surround her. Rabbits, squirrels, deer, beavers, raccoons, etc. She opens her eyes and greets them with pleasure. They are so friendly and attractive. She tells her story, and they lead her to a little house which she makes her home. Now these friendly birds and animals symbolize our intuitive leads or hunches, which are always ready to get you out of the woods. The little house proves to be the home of the seven dwarfs. Everything is in disorder, so Snow White and her animal friends begin to clean the house. The squirrels dust with their tails. The birds hang things up, using their little deer horns for a hat rack. When the seven dwarfs come home from their work of digging gold, they discover the change and at last find Snow White asleep on one of their beds. In the morning she tells her story, remains with them to keep house and cook their meals, and is very happy. The seven dwarfs symbolize the protective forces all about us. In the meantime, the cruel stepmother consults her mirror, and it says to her, "Over the hills, in the greenwood shade, where the seven dwarfs their dwelling have made, there Snow White is hiding her head, and she is lovelier by far, O Queen, than thee." This infuriates the Queen, so she starts off disguised as an old hag, with a poisoned apple for Snow White. She finds her in the house of the seven dwarfs and tempts her with the big, red, delicious apple. The birds and animals endeavor to tell her not to touch it. They try to give her the hunch not to eat it. They rush around in dismay, but Snow White can't resist the apple. She takes one bite and falls apparently dead. Now all the little birds and animals rush off to bring the seven dwarfs to the rescue, but too late Snow White lies lifeless. They all bow their little heads in grief. Then suddenly the prince appears, kisses Snow White, and she comes to life. They are married and live happily ever after. The queen and cruel stepmother is swept away by a terrific storm. The old thought form is dissolved and dissipated forever. The prince symbolizes the divine plan of your life. When it wakes you up, you live happily ever after. This is the fairy story which has enthralled New York and the whole country. Find out what form of tyranny your cruel stepmother is taking in your subconscious. It is some negative conviction which works out in all your affairs. We hear people saying,
Right, that's a very, very good psychological interpretation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which I wasn't expecting to hear on this type of audio. But it is very interesting that the way that she interprets movies. There's an interpretation of The Wizard of Oz somewhere as well that I've heard. That's a psychological interpretation. So she uses popular culture to make the psychological point, and I think that's quite clever. This is from 1940, so Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs must have just come out very recently at that point. Anyway, that's the 20 minutes of it that I wanted to play. So I'm gonna unshare my screen and stop the recording. I will carry on. I might use this for the radio show at some point because it's a good interpretation, and I wanted to get some material on a recording. So if you are listening to the radio show, it's